Oh, thanks for reminding me. I'm gonna say I have different guests on every week, kind of like what she does. Depends. Whoever I can get, really. Yeah. Yeah, he's still there. Justin? Yeah, it seems fine to me. Bro, if you want, you can. I don't have anything open till July, though. Is that okay? What? Like your show? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was talking about, like, if I had this, I would do my own show. Oh. I would come on your show. I was about to say, I thought he wanted to be on my show, and then he was like, oh. By then I'll have other records out. He wants his own show? Yeah. He wants his own show. No, not, I'm saying I would if I did that. Most people do that. Come in, they're like, I want my own show. I'm going to read it. There's no time like... What would you talk about? What you want to do today, but tomorrow next time. I got to focus on the song. I think I don't want to be the interview. That's all. Can't be the interview. That's all. When I'm slowing down, I can start interviewing. Freestyle freaks? They're having a lot of political guys on lately, though. Elections, right? Okay, there's a lot to talk about in politics right now. Oh boy, you ain't kidding. No, for mayor. Is that a fat joke, sir? Don't do that, I'm sensitive. Why did you post it twice? That's so creepy! That was an accident. Of course you can't delete it because I sent it. All right, Justin, you still there?
Yeah.
All right, good. He didn't get sick of our shit.
No. I can barely hear. I can hear like just mumbles. I can't even hear what you guys are saying.
Ruben, is it? You want to turn it up a little bit so you can hear? Lips. You see it's a different chair. It's a brand new chair too. Is it really? That shit's not brand new. No, the one you're in. Oh my God, John! Hey, I feel special. Bro, we brought up elections. You thought it was for the president. Don't talk to me.
What?
All right, can you hear me okay, boss?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly now.
All right, cool. All right, so Gino, get us started whenever you're ready. I'll hold the piss I have to take because I want to get started.
Excuse me, sorry.
Cool. Oh, this is going to be a good show.
Yeah, man. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's John Brecco here. Welcome to the Round Table on Hamiltonradio.net channel HR2. I am your host, of course. There's nobody else here, so who the fuck else could be your host? That wouldn't make any sense. But anyway, I have a very special guest today. DJ Danny and her guests are also still in the room. They had a great show earlier. But
Guys, I want to explain something really quick. Every time I introduce a guest, I do a drum roll. So I got a good amount of people here. So can everybody do a drum roll real quick for me, please? All right, my guest for the day is Justin Sargent. Did I pronounce that right, bud?
Ayo, yes, you did.
All right, sweet. How we doing, man? You feeling good?
Oh, yeah, man. Feeling great.
All right,
How
awesome.
you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I can't complain. They talked about bouncing nipples as soon as they went off the air, and I'm just in rare form today.
Bouncing nipples?
Yeah, I don't know why they started talking about that. That's really none of my business, but, you know, that's just what they decided to talk about off the air. And I'm not
Awesome.
about to control that, so. Plus,
Nor
I got a
should
good
you.
laugh out of it, so I didn't mind. Bouncing nipples are great.
Yeah.
All right, but anyway, I know there was a lot of stuff that you wanted to talk about today. You wanted to talk about Spider-Man, Rock of Ages, Bonnie and Clyde, and just some of the work you've generally done. So is there anything...
Yeah, no, whatever you want to talk about. I'm here for you.
I mean, you're the guest today, so, I mean, that doesn't work like that. But thank you. I appreciate it. But
Sure.
anyway, why don't we talk about Spider-Man first? Because that was, like, what, at least from what I was, like, looking up, like, before the show, one of, like, the bigger works you've done. So why don't you tell me some of the experience that you got from Spider-Man, what it was like to work that Broadway show?
I actually was really fortunate to come into the show closer to the end of its run. Sorry, I'm just dealing with the end of a sinus infection right now.
Yeah, you're good, bro.
As you can hear. Sorry.
You sound distinguished, like the...
Yeah. I wish it looked distinguished when I'm doing it, but I'm just like craning my neck and, holding on to the couch, just like,
You're
anyway.
You're on audio. Don't even worry about it.
I know. So, I came in towards the end, and I kind of got to circumvent the tumultuous beginning. It had a pretty rough start.
Yeah, it did.
Through the 9 months of previews and just the general kind of
the technical
negativity.
difficulties and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, the general negativity surrounding the show. Even though the show was, a lot of fun and everybody that worked on it was just amazing. And but there was this kind of like, cloud surrounding the show when it was first, coming to Broadway, and it. By the time I got there, it had kind of dissipated, and so I had a really great experience. I had an amazing experience, and yeah, it was definitely one of the highlights of my career. Absolutely.
All right, but what about it made it as great as it was? Was it who you worked with, what you did? What about
1,000% who I worked with? The cast and crew were everybody, hands down, from the top down, were amazing. Our stage manager was wonderful. Kat, she was wonderful. But honestly, one of my favorite things about it was the scale of the thing. It was so massive, and just to watch this thing unfold every night was just kind of a show in itself. Just seeing all the these massive set pieces flying across stage, and then all these dudes in Spider-Man costumes just flipping around and shit. It was just unreal. It was just kind of an unreal. It felt like a circus. You know what I mean? And I guess that was the original intention. But it felt like you were just kind of part of this massive, I wouldn't even call it like a musical, just a production. It was such a production,
I can imagine, honestly, when you grow up watching Spider-Man movies, you never picture it on Broadway. I thought the best I'd ever get was nerding out at conventions, but we got Broadway out of this, man. I think Spider-Man's doing pretty good for itself.
Yeah, man. Have you ever been to Comic-Con?
I went 1 year. I went to Anime Next in Atlantic City, and I went to one thing in Newark. Other than that, I'm a poor bastard who can't really afford much. So.
Oh man, I got really lucky. My wife used to run the security for Comic-Con in San Diego.
Oh wow.
And so I got to go. Yeah, I got to go 1 year when she was doing her job, and she snuck me into the Force Awakens panel. And I got to do a bunch of cool shit that a lot of people had to wait 4 days outside for. I felt really bad, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. Anyways, that kind of also fulfilled a nerd dream of mine.
Oh, dude, if you like any of that stuff, like you'd want to go to Comic-Con like all the time. Like you think about it, and then when you actually do it, like it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, we got to talk about some of the other works that you've done. So why don't you tell me like about Rock of Ages? Why don't you start going into that a little bit?
Yeah, well, Rock of Ages. So Spider-Man is actually the reason I moved to New York.
Okay.
I auditioned for Spider-Man in Orlando when they were looking. That's where I'm from. I was just out of college and working at the theme parks and everything, and they were coming to Orlando to look for Peter Parker. I went through the whole audition process. I flew to New York and had my first New York audition afterwards, and my callbacks and all this kind of stuff. And afterwards, the casting director pulled me aside and said, do you have any plans of moving to New York? And I said, eventually. And he said, well, I think you should do it sooner than later. And so I took his advice, and 6 months later, I moved to New York. And I didn't get the job, but because of that audition, they called me back. The same casting company called me back in for Rock of Ages.
Yeah.
A few months after I moved here. And they had remembered me from the Spider-Man callbacks, and so I auditioned, and this was about 6 months after we moved here, and was offered a role to understudy Constantine Maroulis on Broadway. That's awesome. So that's how I started that job, and then they closed and moved to the Helen Hayes, and so that show reopened at the Helen Hayes, and I went and did Bonnie and Clyde. And when Bonnie and Clyde closed, the role of Drew was open, and so they asked me to take over, and I took over the role of Drew in Rock of Ages for a year and a half.
Oh, shoot.
I did that role. Yeah.
That's awesome, brother. Let me ask you something though. What was the first role you auditioned for in New York? Because I know you were just saying like that kind of got you into Rock of Ages. It was Spider-Man?
That was my first ever New York audition. Yeah. And it was actually a callback that I had gotten from an audition I had in Orlando for Spider-Man.
Huh. I thought didn't you work Spider-Man though? Like, I guess you just didn't work it right away? Yeah,
I didn't start with it. I didn't come in until the last 7 months. I was playing Drew in Rock of Ages from early 2013 to mid 2014. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. 2012 to mid 2013, and then I went to Spider-Man from July of 2013 all the way until it closed in January of the next year.
Okay, gotcha. That makes more sense. I was trying to make sense of that in my head, and then I was like, wait, hold on a minute.
No, so essentially what happened is Reeve Carney left Spider-Man, and I replaced him.
Okay.
Coming straight from Rock of Ages, yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so what were like some of the differences that you had in Bonnie and Clyde and Rock of Ages from Spider-Man?
Oh, wow. So, I mean, well, first of all, in Bonnie and Clyde, I was a swing, so I covered Clyde and Ted and Buck and the rest of the ensemble. And I guess that's probably the biggest difference is that I was, off stage covering multiple roles, and then in Rock of Ages and in Spider-Man, I was actually, playing the lead of those shows. So I got two completely different experiences. I got, one waiting in the wings to go on and just having to be ready with multiple things going through my mind at the same time. Being a swing on Broadway is the hardest job on Broadway. I totally 100% believe.
Yeah.
And I'd like to point out that I don't know anybody that does it better than Tony LaPage. If you ever want to interview somebody that has some fascinating stories, you need to interview Tony LaPage. He was our swing in Rock of Ages, and I think at the time, and maybe still is, the only person that covered every single male role in a Broadway show. He played everybody from Franz, the 17-year-old, to Hertz, his dad, the 50-year-old, and everybody in between. Just dance role. I mean, he's amazing. Anyways, it's the hardest job on Broadway. So that's how I started. And then the other side of that is playing the lead role in the show you're really responsible for one thing, and that's to, help carry the show.
Yeah.
And, you have one job to focus on. So that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, no, that's crazy, bro. So basically what a swing is, you're covering for pretty much just everybody in general. So you're kind of just like everybody's understudy.
Well, so it depends on the size of the cast and what the roles are, but typically a swing. So if, for instance, in Bonnie and Clyde, we had 2 swings. I was the swing for Clyde, Ted, Buck, and some of the ensemble men, and then we had Sean Jeunesse, who was our older male swing, who covered the older male roles in the show.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah. No, that's crazy. Just thinking about even covering like all those different roles in the show, being, like you said, being ready for like anything at any time. That's pretty much having like the whole show memorized off the top of your head. That's crazy, dude.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm fully confident that if Tony LaPage wanted to do a one-man Rock of Ages, he could do it like on the spot at any moment.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome to see, though. Can you imagine?
It really, really would.
Like, I would actually pay to see him do all those different roles.
I would too. Actually, it's a really good idea. Actually, we should produce a concert of that. It'd be fun.
You should bring that idea up to him because I don't have his contact information.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Plus, if you ever want to bring him on here, I certainly wouldn't mind. It sounds like an amazing thing to do. The fact that you can pull off a swing on Broadway.
I guarantee you, his interview will be much more interesting than mine.
Bro, your interview is very interesting. You have a sinus infection. They talked about bouncing nipples earlier. I think we're doing okay. We haven't talked about bouncing nipples with Tony yet, so I think you actually got a little bit of leverage.
He might have something to say about that. He might have some input.
Well, that's for a different time. He's not on the air right now, so I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, bro. All right, so tell me a little bit, what was I going to say? I guess basically tell me, like, how the experience was with, like, Bonnie and Clyde and, like, Rock of Ages. Was it just as good as Spider-Man, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, well, they were all completely different. I mean, with Bonnie and Clyde, we had created that show as a cast and opened it. With Rock of Ages, I was coming into a cast that was already established, and the show was already what it was, and same thing with Spider-Man. And I guess the biggest difference between the three of them were just the scale. I mean, Spider-Man was just massive. I said, it felt like I was, I felt like I was doing a circus instead of, it was just huge.
Yeah, I don't think that's still the biggest like production that Broadway's done, right?
I'm not sure if Paramore had a larger set, and I think there are bigger houses. I think that the Gershwin has more seats than the what was called the Foxwoods at the time. But I mean, Harry Potter's in there now, so I mean, it's I'm sure they added a bunch of seats.
I was gonna say, I know Spider-Man is up there for sure.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, it's definitely the most expensive of all time.
I was gonna say, I'm not gonna lie to you. Wikipedia was extremely helpful 3 hours before the show. Yeah. I was like looking stuff up like about all the different plays just to make sure I was prepared. Wikipedia really came in clutch.
I mean, I think it cost something like $75 million for Spider-Man. It's the most expensive Broadway show ever.
Yeah, because just for the fact that it was open for so long probably contributed to that.
Yeah. Do you know what the second? So Spider-Man is the second most expensive one. Do you know what it is?
Do I know what the most expensive one is?
The second most, because the most expensive one was Spider-Man, and then the second most expensive was Shrek.
Was it really?
at like $35 million. So Spider-Man cost an additional like $40 million. Oh
wow!
And that's just crazy.
That's over double what Shrek was.
Yeah, it's overkill.
And honestly, you don't even think of it like beforehand with Shrek, but when you picture like all the different characters from so many different like fairy tales and what they're all supposed to be able to do, like you start thinking about it and it's like, oh shit, that probably actually makes sense that it costs that much money.
Oh yeah.
Because with Spider-Man, he's flying around with all like his webs and everything, doing like all the crazy fight scenes, all the villains with powers. I can only imagine if they brought like the Avengers to Broadway, how expensive that would be.
You know, there's this like Marvel like stunt arena tour that goes around. I actually would love to see that. I think it's supposed to be pretty cool.
I can imagine, dude. That sounds awesome. The fact that it's like just going around in general.
Yeah, it's just like a huge stunt show, like a huge stunt and like special effects show with like essentially it's like the Avengers, all of them.
Hopefully one day. I can only imagine how cool that'll be though. For now.
Yeah.
All right, but how did you really get into like Broadway and acting and all that stuff in general in the first place? Why don't we take it back into a little bit, go like into like your background and stuff?
Sure, man. Yeah, I was raised in a little town in Florida called Newport Richey, and when I just moved there my 8th grade year of middle school, and I was moving in like the middle of a school year, and my English teacher, my history teacher, told me that, like there's a really quick way to make friends, and a really good way to make friends is to join the community theater. So I went and auditioned for the community theater and got cast as the Artful Dodger and Oliver. And that was it. It hooked me in there. And I did like something like 20 shows, like 19 or 20 shows at the surrounding community theaters in my 4 years in high school.
That is a really quick way to make friends, though.
What's that?
That is a really quick way to make friends, though. He wasn't kidding.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. It was, and what was important was that, it was that you also were spending a lot of time with older people. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of advice given and a lot of like older influence, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, gotcha. So basically, you had a lot of different people to learn off of when you started doing theater. No, that's always extremely helpful, man. Just to really have that, like, kind of like behind you as you're starting out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I guess what attracted me to it the most was I've just always loved music, and I like the way it makes me feel, and like the emotional connection to it, and to be able to tell stories through music is it's something I fell in love with, and that's why I love doing this.
Yeah, basically musicals kind of just take two ways of like telling stories and like puts it together.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, why don't we go into how you started like doing this like professionally? Like what led you to doing like different things in Orlando? Was like that it or?
Yeah, I went to so I graduated high school and I went to college at the University of Central Florida, and I auditioned for their BFA program for musical theater and did not get in the first time. And they told me to lose weight and come back. Well, they didn't necessarily say you need to lose weight and come back. They just essentially said it was kind of, if you want to be successful, you probably need to lose. I was very heavy. I was very heavy in high school.
Okay.
I was like upwards of 247 pounds.
All I'm going to say is for all you big men out there, just look at the genie from Aladdin. That man is a blessing to society.
Yeah.
That guy is fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the funniest dudes I've ever seen on Broadway.
Yeah, man.
And I was like up in the cheap seats, and I have a fear of that, and he was still making me laugh.
Exactly.
Beautiful thing.
Exactly. But, so I didn't get in. And I came back the next year and auditioned and got in, and so I had to start all over again. And so I spent 4 years getting that degree, and then once I graduated, I started working at like the theme parks in Orlando, like Universal Studios. I did for Halloween Horror Nights, we did like a 45-minute version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show on stage live, and I played Riff Raff in that. A role that I will play any day, anytime, anywhere. I love that role. That's like my pride and joy. Working there at the theme parks, and I worked at SeaWorld with
awesome.
With Rachel Potter, who was in Evita on Broadway. She and we were like the hosts of a ski show for a summer.
Okay. That's
yeah. She was in Evita on Broadway.
All right. So that's basically kind of like how everything like happened and segued, right?
Yeah. That's that's just I was working, and then
Gotcha.
exactly, and then the Telsey and Company was coming to cast for Spider-Man in Orlando, and that's when I auditioned, and that's when everything changed.
Gotcha, boss. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to ask this, especially for people who might be trying to get into acting and, possibly need some advice. Like, what did you do when you didn't get in the acting program right away for college? Like, how did you make yourself better to get in? Was it just the losing weight thing, or was there other stuff they said you needed to work on?
Yeah, it was that. It was dancing, and so I took a dance class my first year that I wasn't in the BFA program. I took a dance class, and it was like the same class that some of the BFA students were taking anyway. So I definitely improved on that, and I improved on. I just took that year to try really hard. I mean, I ended up doing a couple of shows in the Orlando area that year, and I did a production of Assassins that year.
Nice.
And I also did a production of A Lion in Winter up in DeLand, Florida. And so I definitely spent that year working on, just continuing to do it. And I think I just,
Gotcha.
it probably just influenced that audition the second time.
Okay. So at the end of that, what is the advice you would give from experiencing that to an actor who is maybe trying to make it? What's the advice that you'd give them?
Well, it depends. Do you mean like somebody who's going in, who's trying to get into a college, or do you mean like somebody who's like starting this as a career?
I would say more starting this as a career. Like, what would you take away from the experience you had with, not getting in right away? What's the advice that you'd give?
Well, the thing that I tell most people when they ask about like, oh, how do you, how did this all happen is that there's so many people trying to do this. I have so many talented friends that have not been afforded the same opportunities that I have. It's all about luck, man. It's like you have to be ready and equipped with the right attitude when the luck strikes.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like like for me, I happened to be right for Peter Parker, and they were just looking for Peter Parkers, and so I created this great relationship with this casting company, and then all of a sudden I was super right for this thing that they needed to fill. They needed, they had somebody leaving a show, and so they had a very specific thing, young, long hair rocker with a high tenor voice who can cover Constantine Maroulis. Boom. Yeah. It was me. You know what I mean? Like, it just was lucky that role happened to be available while I was the exact perfect age and appearance to play the role. Anyways, so that's what it starts with, is you just have to kind of give in to the fact that a lot of this is luck, and let that be okay, and let that like help alleviate some of the stress of, of what this business can bring, because it's a lot of self-reflection, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You do pull off the Peter Parker role very well, though. I do have to admit.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie about that one.
Thank you. So that's the one side of it, and the other side of it is to never stop working on your craft. Like, I still take voice lessons. I still take acting classes. I enjoy it, so I keep doing it. It's like going to the gym. You don't stop going to the gym once you've achieved, like your goal. You keep going to maintain that goal, and to find new goals, and to like find new things to discover about what you
further.
can do.
You keep pushing further. Yeah, I gotcha. All right, but anyway, actually what I was thinking is that you were kind of like almost saying like, don't be afraid to fail. That's just the first thing that kind of popped in my head.
Yeah, I fail all the time, man. I fail all the time. I like, you know, you go to auditions are inherently like set up for you to fail.
Yeah.
They are, you know what I mean? Because they're so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You got to push yourself to be able to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, I know you did say you had to be done by 9, so I do want to make sure I do have enough time to get you off air.
Yeah, no worries, man. And you know, anytime you want to do this again, let me know, and I'll be happy to come on and chat.
Of course, brother. I got openings in July or August, so you know what? We can keep talking. We can even bring Tony on as well at some point around then.
Tony and I, we'd have a lot of fun bouncing off each other.
Oh, my God. That'd be awesome, dude. Yeah, no, I'd definitely love to have you back on. You were great talking to, man.
Cool, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. You have a good night, brother, all right?
All right, you too, man.
All right, bye. All right, I do want to go into some of the history behind everything he's done real quick. I've prepared this to kind of do that. So what I do want to tell you guys, if you ever want to check any of his stuff out, there are videos on YouTube. If you Google him, he's all over the place. So Spider-Man. Basically, at least this is what I got from it. It takes elements of different Spider-Man movies and kind of just puts them together in one musical, which I thought was really cool when I was reading about it. Like I said, Wikipedia was extremely helpful about 3 hours before my show. I couldn't thank Wikipedia enough. But, yeah, it was just really cool how it combined all the different stuff into it. And honestly, the story behind it is awesome as well, just for the fact that they had problems with some of the stunts they were doing. They had technical difficulties when it started back late 2010, and it caused them to have some negative reviews, which in turn caused them to have delays. So basically, what's up, Dave? Shout out to Dave on Wisecracking. He'll be on at 9:30. Just walked in the door and then walked the fuck out. But yeah, the story behind it is really cool with the negative reviews and delays, and then coming back from that in mid-2011 to be able to do that. I honestly thought Justin was on the whole time, but that was actually really cool to know that he auditioned for it, didn't get it, and then came back within the last 7 months of it being on, which is why, I guess that's also kind of why I got, when I was asking, like, if he could give anybody advice, I sort of got, like, don't be afraid to fail. Because, honestly, you fail in that world more than you succeed. So it's like you got to be almost accustomed to that. Then when you succeed, you look at the good things. So, anyway, Rock of Ages, for everybody that doesn't know, it was a play about a guy and a girl. They meet each other. One person thinks that the girlfriend had sex with a guy named Stacey Jackson in the movie. I honestly do forget all the different characters' names. So basically, I can't really like bounce off of that too much, but it's kind of like a love story for anybody that, you know, wants to check that out. And then Bonnie and Clyde is basically about two people that are involved in crimes. You know, they run around everywhere, but no matter what, they stick by each other's side, and they actually end up dying together. If you look up the history, getting shot down by a group of 4 officers in Texas. They actually died really young. I think Bonnie was 23, Clyde was 24, I want to say. But I'm not 100% sure. That you'd have to look up. But like I said, if you do want to ever look at some of the stuff that Justin does, you can Google him. He's on all over the place. You know, all you got to do is type his name. You'll find links. You'll find videos to all different kinds of stuff. And honestly, that was probably one of my best interviews, even though this will probably be one of my shorter shows, just for the fact that he could only be on till 9. So with that being said, I can't wait to check out more of his stuff. and I think you guys should as well. We will be getting off a little bit early tonight just because of how the interview had to be structured for Justin, which is completely fine by me. I'm still glad I got to interview him. Like I said, check out Wisecracking. They'll be on in about the next 20, 30 minutes or so. They'll probably be able to actually get on early for once since I'm ending early, Gino. They never get on early. The other show never gets on early either, and I actually give them time. You know what the problem is? I think they're so technologically retarded. No, but they're so technologically retarded that it takes them forever to get on. Yeah, no, I completely understand. It does make sense. But anyways, like I said, check out Wisecracking. They'll be on around 9:30. For once, they'll probably be on time. But anyways, this is probably one of my best shows, even though, like I said, I'm getting off early. This has been John Brecco here with HamiltonRadio.net, channel HR2, the Roundtable, baby. Check me out every Tuesday, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Good night, everybody. Deuces.